Yo, what's up, guys? Ben Fire here, back with another video, and today me bringing you guys my full New York Jets offensive ebook. This has definitely been one of the best offenses in the game for a while. I just have not ever posted a full ebook on it. Not sure what the reasoning for that is, but for whatever reason, I haven't done it. So we're going to bring you guys the full New York Jets offensive ebook, mainly and exclusively focusing on the trips tight end offset, bunch tight end, and gun bunch. There's a couple of other good formations like a doubles halfback week. There's also a single back wide trips that is pretty solid as well. But we're going to mainly focus on those three big formations, passing the ball. It's a pretty pass heavy offense. I'm just going to kind of show you guys how I like to run the offense myself. So we're going to start out in the gun bunch. I feel like the gun bunch is the best part of this offense. Now what I like to do is put my fastest guy right here in the slot. And then as far as the other spots, you can kind of do whatever you want. Now I'm only going to be using one main ability, and that's going to be the tight end apprentice. That's one ability that I always like to have. But as far as everything else, we don't really have any other abilities. So that's pretty much all we're going to be rocking with. Let's hop into our audibles, though. We got Z-Spot, Halfback Base, Flood, and Jets Dig. A couple of other good plays in this include Mesh, which I'm not sure if I'll talk about yet, but we have Mesh. We also have Mesh Post, and then Bench Pivot, which I will be talking about. As far as our bunch tight end audibles, what we have is inside switch, inside zone, tight end corner, and PA boot over. And last but not least, trips tight end offset, you have level sail, RPO alert bubble, RPO trap alert bubble, and then PA crossers. Honorable mentions will be X under and flood. But anyways, let's go ahead, hop straight into it. Before we get into the video, make sure you guys do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more. And of course, follow me on Twitter. Link will be down below in the description. But yeah, let's get straight into it. Alright guys, anyways, here we are out on the field, and I'm actually going to start out in this bench pivot play, just because it's not in our audible, so I wanted to talk about it pretty briefly here. Now, here's a look at the play art. Of course, bench pivot, I like it a little bit better than smash return, although there's not that big of a difference, but bench pivot's a pretty solid play, and you don't have to do a whole lot with your hot routes. It's pretty good stock. You see, taking a look at the routes, mainly, we're going to focus in on Darren Waller's route because it's a really good corner route that beats man coverage. It also beats zone coverage pretty effectively. Tyrell on this kind of stock out route. And then we have Ruggs on this pretty far zig route. Kind of hard to explain what it is, but just for our first setup, all I'm pretty much going to do is just fade this slot wide receiver, Henry Ruggs, and that's pretty much going to be it. So taking a look at what we have, of course, we have a couple of different things. Now, you see how it could almost beat cover 3 for a stock touchdown. That corner out actually ended up pulling down the the outside third on that right hand side. So I'm gonna try it again, or just show you again how you can actually beat it for a one play touchdown. And there it is right there with Henry Ruggs. Bad rack animation, but you see we clearly beat him for a touchdown. Of course, Gunslinger would help, but it's a pretty simple cover 3 beater. I'll show it one more time here, right there. He's gonna beat him off the line. Of course, that's AJ Terrell, so that is one of the fastest corners in the game, and we're still able to beat him over the top vertically. Of course, we do have some good speed ourselves with Henry Ruggs, but that is a simple way to beat cover 3. There will, of course, be a couple of other cover 3 beaters in this, but that was just the first way to go ahead and run it. Let's say they start deep halving. That's where this corner out can start to get open with Darren Waller, particularly against zone coverage and this cover 3. Take a look at that little curl flat. You see how he's just going to kind of come down at the last second. You have to be patient. You have to wait a little bit. You see how he's not going to come down immediately. He's going to kind of do a good job of playing both routes. And then right at the very last second, you're going to have a small window to throw it, and that's where you got to kind of take advantage. So again, I'll set it up the same way, just with a little deep half over there. And of course, potentially I could hit B. It's kind of a tight throw, though, so you usually want to wait for A. And again, depending on the different things, that's a route that should usually get over the top of most zone coverages. Now, let's hop into man coverage. Man coverage, it's not going to be the most consistent. It really depends on a couple of different things, but usually Darren Waller's route should be able to beat some man coverage just stock. You see how his corner out right off the bat gets a little bit of separation. Now, we did get some help via route bumps, things like that, but those will happen in games. This is definitely a nightmare to defend, but of course, if that's defended, we have a couple of other things. First off the bat, we got Nelson Aguilar on that little in route. That was zone coverage there. I think I forgot to audible, but that in route will beat zone. It'll beat man as well. Overall, it's just a pretty solid play. As far as other things you could do with it, one of the things I like to do is kind of flip these routes. So what I'll do is I'll put B on like a little streak, and then I'll put RB on the out route. So I could do something like this. This, again, is a look at man coverage. You see that corner out's still going to be open. Let's go ahead, run it against zone, where we just put RB on a little out, B on the streak. Now, I could put B on the fade still. It doesn't really make a difference, but you see it's just going to kind of create just a couple of different mismatches. Depending on the coverage, that could be something that you're looking for. But anyways, let's hop into the next play, which is going to be Z-Spot. Now, Z-Spot is going to pretty much remain similar to all the setups that I've showed before. Of course, the most popular one is just going to be Smart Route RB, put a B on a little out route and streak A. As far as over here, you can do one of two different things. If you have that playmaker ability, you're going to want to put him on a drag. Now, I don't have playmaker right now, but I'll still show it, kind of show what it looks like. There you see the corner out, gets open right over the top. Now, the outside thirds do play it pretty decently. Let's go to Tampa 2, for example, and you'll see it's going to be a lot better. Again, this could be something that potentially beats cover 2. Now, also keep in mind that depending on the zone drops, those outside thirds should play it just a little bit differently. Here it is against cover 2, and you see getting over the top very, very effectively. Of course, with Gunslinger, that's an easy outside pass lead. Without it, I kind of have to pass lead up a little bit, but very, very successful setup. Now, if you did watch my last gameplay, which I uploaded, well, it was my last upload, you noticed that I didn't have playmaker on one of the plays, so what I did is I just threw this outside receiver on a little in route, and that would be a good alternative, especially against the guy running man coverage, which was the case in that gameplay. This in route's always going to be pretty reliable. Depending on the release, you can get open, but here's that corner out against man coverage, very successful. You don't need any abilities for that to get open. That's just going to be the stock corner out. Of course, man coverage abilities are not too much of a concern because of the Raisin AP to them in Ultimate Team, so that's something that I do feel comfortable being able to run on a pretty consistent basis. Of course, we just have a couple of other clear outs, things like that. But I'll show it one more time right here. I'm going to try and hit X. You see B was wide open as well. Now, we did get bagged, and you see that's where the in route's a little bit inconsistent. Of course, Aguilar is not the best receiver in the game, but they're kind of hit or miss. Right there, it was defended pretty well, so that's where you have to make a decision. Of course, that's going to maybe be your only read, but I could also maybe go with something like this where I actually throw your halfback on a little option route. Then he can sit in the middle of the field. That was stock cover 3 with 2 hook curls. And you see how he's still able to get into the soft squat of the zone. Now, let's hop into another way to run it here. And the next way we're going to do, the next thing that we're going to do, rather, is going to be with a little bit of motion. Now, what I like to do here is I'm going to motion Henry Ruggs over. We're just going to create a little max protect setup to start. I'm just going to drag X, streak B, and block both our tight end and our running back. Of course, there will be other options, but this is going to be our first setup. Just a little motioned over corner out. This is going to turn into a post route, and you see how it gets pretty deep vertically down the field. Almost can actually get over the top of an outside third. Now, it's not better against zone. It's going to be a little bit better against man coverage, and the biggest reason for that is you want your bunch on the wide side, so when you motion a receiver from the wide side to the short side and he's on like a crossing pattern, it's going to take him a while to get across the formation. So we'll set it up just one more time here. And of course, you could always manipulate these by 1 route, 2 routes. I'm just going to give you guys some kind of base setups. I can also go with like a little motion snap. That's going to prevent him from getting pressed. And now look at that separation. 5 yards of separation very easily. And you see we are off to the races. Very difficult to defend on the inside numbers and the outside. So anyways, let's hop into our next play. I'm actually going to move into the halfback base. Now, base has been a very successful run, and you can actually run it pretty well from both sides. Typically, what people used to do is only run it to the side where you got the faster handoff. In this case, I'm actually running it to the slower side, but it's actually pretty solid now running it to both sides. Now, guys like Henry Ruggs are pretty much going to get shedded every single play, so that's unfortunate for the video's purpose, but you see right there, just some patient running. You can kind of dissect where the block sheds are coming from, where you're going to have the most space to open up this play, and then you can kind of go from there. So again, I'm just kind of reading, and you see it's very difficult to shoot this run. So you almost have a guaranteed positive yardage, 3+ yards, I would say, every single time. Again, that middle of the field is opening up a lot. It's an outside-based run. They're going to kind of run to the outside, and that's where the biggest holes will kind of open up for you. Of course, you see Henry Ruggs just getting obliterated every time. I'll show what it kind of looks like from the other side because it will be a little bit of a faster handoff animation, and that can allow you to see the hole a little bit better or potentially get to the outside a little bit better. So you see we get a faster handoff animation. We do get shedded again, but you see again, it's 3 yards, 5 yards. And if you are getting shedded very badly, maybe you just want to run it up the middle like this, and you see it's going to be 3 to 5 yards every time. Overall, it's mainly a passing offense. We'll get into more runs in the trips tight end offset, so I'm going to move on to our next play, which will be flood. Now, hopping into this flood play, flood is a pretty simple play. I just got a couple of setups. Right off the bat, stock, just wheel Y. Of course, we all know the deal with this setup. You got the flat, wide open. You have the out route. You have the fade route. Pretty good against cover 3 still. I think it should still beat cover 3. We'll see right here. With, of course, Tyrell Williams. Now, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but there is like this weird glitch that I've noticed as we just ag him, where for whatever reason, if I bump into a corner or whatever the case may be, you saw how Tyrell Williams, he's on an outside fade, and he just started running inside. I'm not sure what the exact reasoning for that is. Here you see it doesn't happen, and now we have the touchdown. So, of course, if he's running inside, you kind of want to stay away from it, but if he's running his normal route, it's going to be cover 3 just how we intend it to. So, if that's the case, that's going to be pretty solid. Of course, let's say he deep halves, he bags you. You have the flats open, you have the out routes open. This is a very difficult play to defend because of the quick snap factor. You can kind of get to the line, make your one hot route, and snap the ball. And that becomes very frustrating for opponents, especially guys that like to audible down. Then they're going to make a minimum of 3, 4, 5 adjustments. And then you can just get to the line, snap him. Maybe you catch them on their defensive lineman or a slot corner, or you catch them in the middle of an adjustment. They don't get one of their flats off, or they don't deep half. Then you can go over the top. If they do deep half, you can hit the out route. Maybe they don't have everything set up that way. So it's very difficult to defend. Let's hop into some of the more unique setups, though. And my personal favorite unique setup is just going to be on a little hitch. I like to motion him out just a couple of steps. Snap it right here. He gets in a really good spot. And pretty much all we're setting up with this play is to throw the hitch. So the out route's kind of there for show. Of course, the out route does a really good job of kind of bringing the zones up. But really, we're kind of just trying to hit the hitch route here. Of course, the flat's going to be a good kind of bait as well for any zones that are going to the outside. And of course, no zone drops will be able to defend this. It's going to be difficult for any hook curls or vertical hooks, as you see in a stock cover 3, to defend it as well. Of course, this play is very successful against things like man coverage. There you see the flat was open up a little bit late, but very good against man coverage, things like that. I'll show it just one time here against man, and then we'll hop into another setup. But you can also go with this little smoke screen, which I didn't even mean to do, but that could be an option. Anyways, going back to the hitch theme, what you can do with the hitch is something that I like to do only against zone coverage, and that's motion it across. So I like to motion it to this side, kind of snap it here. And again, this is going to be the same thing, just kind of with the in route. Now, it's either going to open up the in route or it's going to open up the hitch. Usually with the user, they're going to be kind of focused on that right-hand side. And if they're not, you can throw it to the right every time. And this flood play is difficult to defend because it's a lot of routes that are going to be kind of inside the numbers. So it's a lot of stress on the user, especially against those guys that like to only have their user in the middle of the field and no extra zones. That means they're double mabling, things like that every single play. So you can just see the kind of stress that's going to put on. You have an inside route. You also have the wheel route that's going to be open. You see how we have RB, which I threw very late there, so it's going to be picked off. But you see how you have the out route a little bit earlier. I'm going to hit it right here. But you got to lowball it. It's a tight throw, but it is going to be open pretty much every time. And of course, you have the flats that were probably open the entire play. So right here, you see I got RB open, and that's the route, or that's the timing that you have. You throw it inside the numbers, and it's an easy completion. So that's pretty much it for flood. Let's hop into our last play, Jets dig. I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it is what it is. Hopping into this Jets dig play. I'm going to hop into cover 2 for this, and the stock setup for this is just a corner out A and smart route him. You're going to motion this guy across the field and motion snap him right about there. Typically against cover 2, you should be able to split him. Now, it depends on a couple of things, like a mid-read. Now, most people, if they're running any kind of a Tampa 2, are not going to have that mid-read on the field, so I'm just going to take him off just so you can actually see what it looks like. So we'll just man him up on somebody, something like this. Now, again, over on that right-hand side, it's going to be pretty good against cover 3, that little route combination. You can also kind of lowball it. Right here, I'm going to try and just throw this little seam route, and you see right there, wide open. Now, I actually did show something similar to this play. There was a play similar out of bunch that I showed in a money play for a one-play touchdown that you can maybe duplicate out of this. Not sure if you can, but There are a couple of ways to actually use Ruggs' route and get down the field for a touchdown, or leaving him as this fade route rather, but mainly we're just going to motion him over. This is going to be against cover 3, and it's also very good against man coverage, but here you see that corner out. It's going to get very open. That stock flat does a good job of holding those zones far to the outside and down, which is, of course, what you want. Now, similar to the other play, I can also put Ruggs on a little hitch, and then I like to motion him over again, so kind of keeping the same theme. This setup would be pretty solid. Again, you have a couple of routes going to the outside. In this case, we have the flat open. I threw it very late, and I got hit, but you see how it's going to put a lot of stress on the field, things of that nature. Again, some of the other things that I like to do is maybe I like to streak B, and then I like to just throw RB on a little drag and motion him across like this. This would be just a solid kind of drive concept. Of course, B sometimes can get open, which you see there. He had potential to get open. It was a little bit of a tight throw with a slow receiver and no gunslinger, but that could be potential for a cover 3 beater. Of course, the drag was my main read there, or what's what I should have thrown rather, but this would certainly be an option. Fade B, just drag B. Of course, we keep A on that little corner out, and if I roll out, now he's actually, for whatever reason, he's cutting back in, but you have the drag open, you have the corner out open, and you have the backside in route flats depending on if he leaves it open. So that's pretty much it for Jets dig, and let's move on to our next formation, bunch tight end. Alright guys, here we are out in the bunch tight end. You notice I moved hashes over. That's something that I like to do. Of course, you still want to run your bunch on the wide side of the field. Taking a look at the first play I'm going to run, I'm going to go into the inside zone first just to show what it looks like. This is a very good inside zone. Now, there are a couple of ways to stop it. You see right there, inside stuff, of course, is going to stop it relatively well. And then you have a couple of other ways. There's inside zones are pretty easy to gap shoot, but you can actually kind of do something like this, which is popular out of trips tight end. That's something that you could potentially do, as I forgot to double team Grady Jarrett there, but this would certainly be a solid little option. You can cut it back, and of course it's going to be more open if they're in a 3-3-5 wide and they're doing that traditional gap shoot. Otherwise, what I like to do is actually use some motion. I like to motion Aguilar out. That's going to open up the middle of the field a little bit, and you see, although incognito blocked nobody, which is always great, what that does is it opens up that middle of the field, allows you to kind of make a guy miss, and you should be on your way. Here we're going to double team Grady Jarrett. Right there, we're able to cut it up the middle, and you see we just have a little bit more space to operate. Overall, it is a pretty solid run. Of course, I can kind of confuse him by doing things like this. Now, this is not going to open up more space, but it is going to maybe confuse him a little bit, bring his user out of the play, pass commits, things of that nature, puts this guy in his zone, puts his D end in his zone, and that could allow us to take advantage. But anyways, let's move into our next play, which is going to be the inside switch. With this play, what I'm going to do is smart route X, smart route A, just put Y on a little slant, and then motion him across like so. This is just a very solid, simple, sound setup. Same thing with this play. I have a separate video on it. I think I had Dak Prescott in the thumbnail, unless I'm thinking of a different play, but I should be that one. So you can check that out as well if you wanted to. But this is one of the best setups in the game. It's super, super difficult to defend this out of zone, out of man. Right here you see just a simple flat route can be picked up. It just puts a lot of stress in the middle of the field. The flats get forgotten about, things like that. Just overall, very difficult to defend. Let's hop into two-man under actually here. And of course, you don't have to smart out the corner. You don't have to smart out the post. I like it a little bit deeper though. And then maybe you add playmaker to the equation, it gets a little bit more dangerous. There you see if it's man coverage, you have the slant, you have the post or the corner out, all are going to be open. There's not enough extra zones in a two-man under set to defend all three of them. So that's mainly what's going to be difficult for somebody to defend. Of course, let's go to the cover 2 just to show all of the plays or all of the defensive plays. Against cover 2, your table route's going to be the route that you kind of want to hit, but you also have the slant that pretty much should be every single coverage. Motion slants are still very, very good this year, and I don't see a lot of people going to them. They're super difficult to defend. I know when somebody runs it against me, I struggle to defend it myself, but definitely does not get used as much as it should, in my personal opinion. As far as other ways to run it, what I like to do is go with Y on a little flat, B on a curl, and then we kind of run everything else the same. Motion the curl over and snap it right there. This just creates a little solid curl flat combo. Now I did motion him way too far outside to be able to throw that, so I should have just took my flat, but you kind of notice how that route combo could be successful. This is a go-to of mine. out of this play. I always be running this setup. Again, motion them out. That was, again, way too far, but you see you still have your other routes. The flat, it's going to get forgotten about a lot, especially out of a bunch tight end when people are concerned about PA boot over, things like that. So let's hop into our next play, which is PA boot over. In PA boot over, I'm really just going to run a couple of different setups. Mainly this one, though, just A on a delay fade. I mean, you guys all know this setup. Very difficult to stop. You roll out, you press A, and then you go up the field. It is one of the best plays in the game stock. And the fact that you can quick snap it makes it insanely annoying to defend. So again, just delay fade A, you roll out. Oh, you release him, and then his user goes over there. Now you have the crosser wide open. Now you have the drag wide open. You quick snap him. He doesn't get his deep flat off. He doesn't get his short flat off. And then you add playmaker to the equation. You throw playmaker on Aguilar. You snap it. It's very difficult, or it's just very easy for you to get out of the pocket. You can roll out, and then you can take off and pick up an easy 5. It's just overall a handful to defend. Some of the other ways I like to run it, though, I like to put RB on this little, it's called an out left. Really, it's an in route, though. You just put him on this, and then people usually forget about him. You see how he's forgotten about, and he's already 10 yards down the field by the time anybody touches him on the defensive side of the ball. And then you add that with the fact that you have the delay fade. Oh, it's covered now. Now we have the delay fade. Now we have the drag. Now we have the crosser. Now we have the deep post. Now we did get just get shedded. Be careful when that happens, because if you release the delay fade, then that is subject to happen. So again, that's something that you do want to watch for. But here you see, again, the drag route's able to be open. We're just getting shedded, though. And that's probably the biggest problem with this. People that send heat. So you got to be careful if somebody's sending heat. Of course, traditionally, you will have kind of 7 people blocking. But if you go with that setup, you release him, different things can happen. Here you see, again, that crosser just has so much space to throw it. Overall, very solid play. As far as different things you could do, one of the things I like to do is maybe go with X on a little motion slant. I go with something kind of like this, where I have a motion slant, flat, delay fade, and then that crosser. Of course, I didn't need to. Nice block running back. I didn't need to block my running back there, but I just did, just because. So again, I can go with something certainly like this. Here I'm going to flip them a little bit just to get a different look. But you see how I can still roll out. Again, the deep post doesn't do too much depending on the coverage, especially if zone drops are set. It's not going to make a big difference. So you can go away from it briefly like that. But anyways, let's move into our next play, which will be the tight end corner. Tight end corner. Just got a couple of main setups for this. What I'm going to do in our first setup is just going to be put RB on a wheel route, put B on a little streak there, and then what we're going to go ahead and do is just snap the ball. So this is, again, it's something that you can kind of quick snap. You're really only making 2 hot routes, so if you have conductor, your quarterback actually won't make an animation. That's definitely nice for people that have conductor. If you don't, he's going to make 1 small hot route, but it's still going to be pretty difficult to defend. You see that corner out getting wide open against cover 3. Let's go to cover 2 now. Against cover 2, this streak can split the middle of the field. Of course, the mid-read can sometimes follow it. I'm in the wrong play here, though, so we're just going to throw it away. But it's just a difficult setup to defend. This is a setup that you can actually run in the beginning of the year. This is definitely a go-to setup out of tight end corner that I see, just because it stretches the middle of the field well. It stretches the outside well. There you see the streak able to get open. We do take a hit there, but you see how it was open. We should have got a catch realistically. But overall, it's a solid setup. The out route can get open. This tight end corner route can get open. Just overall difficult to defend. As far as some of the other things I like to do with this, I like to create maybe a curl flat type setup where I go with something kind of like this. So I'm going to put Y on a slant, smart route B, streak A, and then just motion Tyrell over. So now we have this little deep post route streak. We have an out route. We have a couple of threats in the flat, like Richard here. We have the crosser, which gives us some solid options there. Again, smart route B, streak A, slant Y. You can block your running back. I could also flat X if I like that a little bit better, which personally I do. And then you can kind of just sit here, wait. Now you see the crosser open. If it's man coverage, of course, you're going to have a couple of different routes open. And that's just overall a solid setup. So anyways, with that being said, let's hop into our last formation, the trips tight end offset. Now this trips tight end offset is mainly a running formation. What people do, sometimes they come out in the gun bunch tight end and then they audible to this trips tight end offset. Now I also forgot to mention one play in the beginning of the video, which is the RPO Buck alert bubble. I'm going to go over this briefly. It's very difficult to defend. Right there you see the inside stuff did get blown up. Now for whatever reason, I'm not sure why we just get shedded by this nickel normal. That doesn't happen to be online ever. It's not a good formation by any stretch of the imagination. Here, I'm just going to throw the bubble, and we get picked off. Gotta love that, but can I just show a play? Like, come on now, but solid play. I'm sure a lot of you already know this play. You know how good it is. You don't need me to necessarily show you in practice mode for it to be successful for you, but it is a solid play, especially against 3-3-5 wide. Things like that. Can I actually audible to 3-3-5 wide? No, I can't, but it's a solid setup. Of course, you have the RPO Bubble threat, which I'm going to try and throw here, as that was an 0-1 trap, but point still kind of stands the same with that RPO Bubble. It's difficult to defend. People kind of sleep on it this year. They don't throw it as much, certainly as much as they did last year, but it's pretty solid still. That's going to kind of take us into our RPO trap, which I'll actually run next, just because it is kind of similar. Now, it's going to be a little bit better just because it's up the middle, and this nickel normal's kind of weakness is up the middle. As you've seen, it's defending our outside runs pretty well. But this RPO trap, very solid. 0-1 trap is super difficult to shoot, kind of similar to the base, a little bit worse, but it is still difficult to shoot. Really, nickel normal is actually pretty solid defense from it. I think in the beginning of the year, a lot of people actually ran nickel normal to kind of stop this run that was popular out of the A slot offset. You could just kind of stack the box. You brought a safety, and they would have to like blitz inside. But overall, it's a solid run. Of course, you still have the RPO, which is difficult to defend. You're going to have to come out. You're going to have to move some guy over there, and you see right there, we're actually able to take it to the crib. So it can be dangerous with a fast receiver. So that's that. Moving in to our next run, we got the RPO Alert Bubble. Similar to the inside zone. You could just run the inside zone. This is going to be a little bit better, though, because it's going to prevent an extra slot cornerback from getting a block shed, and that's going to be because you have that RPO Alert Bubble, or that RPO Bubble. That's going to be the biggest threat to it. As far as it is concerned, this is not the best run. Certainly, the formation is probably the worst of the three, but it is solid. If you want to, of course, you can go with the traditional inside zone. But you see here, it's just this decent, solid run. That's, again, pretty good to pick up like 3 yards. Now, I probably should have taken what's-his-face out of the game, Grady Jarrett, just so that we don't get shedded to death every single play. But you see just a solid run that you can do. Of course, if they're playing inside, throw the bubble. If they're playing outside, you should be able to pick up some decent yards. Anyways, let's move into level sail. And with the level sail, what I like to do is just simply streak B. And that's going to be it. So this is a play that you can, again, quick snap. You streak B. You have the flat. You have the corner out. Now, some people like to smart out that corner. Out of this particular formation, that's not my favorite thing to do. The reason for that is just because if you smart out him, look how short he is. He's just running super short. If it's any kind of zone coverage, he's not really going to be able to get over the top. You see right there, example A, he just doesn't get far enough. And if that was his traditional corner out, typically he would be able to beat deeper zones, deeper coverages, things of that nature. Now with Henry Ruggs, just kind of a clear out. Of course, we have the in route that gets underneath. Pretty solid. Now, sometimes when those in routes get bumped, they run way too deep. So one of my alternatives to that would be just to drag him like this. Of course, in a perfect world, I'm throwing this guy on a post route. I don't have that ability, though, so we're not going to run that. But drag route, solid. You have the corner out. You have just a couple of different things. Good against man, good against zone. You guys know the drill. Let's move into PA crossers. With PA crossers, it's kind of similar. Just a quick little setup I like to go to is just drag Y, streak X. This is a setup that I ran out of that Clef video I did. Just a pretty solid setup. You just get a nice little max protection. If you're getting shedded, you can roll out, hit the crosser. These crossers do a good job of even getting over zone drops. Zone drops are at 20, zone drops are at 25. These will do a good job of kind of getting over the top of those. Of course, if I wanted to, I could go with like the delay fade strategy. I could flat Y, slant X, do something like this, and it would be a pretty good setup. Again, it's just similar to the PA boot over. Could step up in the pocket, low ball it, or in this case, touch pass it, and be able to possession catch it. So overall, that's a solid way to run it. As far as some other ways I like to do it, maybe I drag X, hitch Y, just doing like some weird stuff like this, or I streak Y, option RB. I could create like a little curl flat on the left. On the right side, I have a little baby hitch, and then I have this just deep threat. So you can do some things like this. Just would be a solid setup as I try to hit the crosser, but I get shedded. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on the strip side and offset. Just wanted to show the runs mainly, but the passes are there. Again, I have made separate videos that show this more in depth, a couple of gameplays as well. Anyways, that's going to do it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more, and peace. I'm out of here.